I wanted your thoughts on how to either get rid of these habitual thoughts or to use them to help me to be in alignment.
Well, they've already helped you, because every time you have a thought like that, you ask for something more, and Source follows the trajectory of that rocket of desire, and you become more. So your prosperity is becoming greater and greater. But what you're describing here is, by the emotions that you're feeling, is a disparity between the prosperity that you keep launching and the habit of thought, which is all a belief is, a thought you keep thinking about it. So what happens is, the more prosperous you become vibrationally, and the more your habit of thought doesn't go along with that, then the more uncomfortable you become. When you really, really want something and you're focused upon its opposite, you feel really, really bad because there's a really big wobble. If you sort of want it and you're focusing in opposition of it, you sort of don't feel so good because the wobble is not so great, you see. So again, we're talking about momentum and trajectory and focus. So yeah, we can show you exactly what to do, and you'll all benefit by this. So let's walk through this. And we'll play with you again if you really want to. We're just making a point, trying to get everybody understanding that there's really not a lot of value in beating the drum out here in the specifics of what's not working. You've got to get to the heart of what's going on. So bring us back around to what you said. This is what we heard you say. I am prosperous, would like to be more prosperous. I have plenty of everything. But we want to say to you at the beginning of this conversation, you attempted to do something that you can't do. So we're going to help you to work to understand our reasoning about the flaw in what's going on with you. You'll hear this really easily. You said, I've got all the money that I could possibly want, or something like that. Did you get that impression? That plenty of money. And then you said, but I think my beliefs are holding me back from more. So there's a sort of contradiction there. But this is the flaw that you were attempting. A lot of people do it. It's what we were just teasing about Esther asking us to do. If you've got a desire that you don't believe, so there's discord between the vibrational frequencies, and of course the desire is dominant. Sometimes it feels to you like if you could just pull your desire back, the discord would go away. I felt better before I wanted that. I felt better before I saw that Maserati. I did. And I felt a lot better before I sat in it. And I felt way better before I drove it. Way better before I drove it, because now I cannot stop thinking about it. And I'm so angry at myself for wanting something that I can't have. That's a sort of example of that. So, like if a car is going 100 miles an hour and it hits a tree, it's a bigger problem than if it's going 5 miles an hour and hits a tree. So humans think, well, I'll just slow the car down. And we say, no, you want to get rid of the trees because you want to go fast. You want to go fast. You just don't want to be banging into things. And so it's releasing the resistance. It's not releasing the desire. And yet you were sort of attempting to release desire. You were trying to convince us all that you were just doing really well and you had all the money that you wanted, but there's a contradiction in there because you're not ever going to have everything that you want. You're not ever going to be at the end of that, because with that money that's coming are all kinds of other things, all kinds of other freedoms. Don't talk yourself out of wanting something just because you haven't figured out how to get it. That's the biggest flaw. That's the biggest vibrational inaccuracy that goes on in your vibration all the time. So we know that more prosperity is what you want, and the reason we know it is because we've seen your vortex. It's full of things. You have enough prosperity in there to keep yourself going for 20 or 30 or 40 lifetimes, you see. And there's no reason that it cannot be flowing into your experience now. You just got to get the vibrational frequency of the vortex, which is where it is, the trajectory of source, which is where it is. You just got to bring yourself up to a consistent vibrational level with it so that it can move in realized fashion into your life experience. So you were so accurate, so wise when you acknowledge, I've got beliefs that are hindering me. You've assessed that perfectly. I've got beliefs that are not vibrationally up to speed with my desire. And we want to say in simple terms, the only reason that those beliefs hold steady is because you keep practicing them. And the reason that you keep practicing them is because you're out here in the wobble zone considering them where there's so much evidence and proof of them. It's really difficult. In fact, it's impossible. It is not logical on any level to be looking at a reality that has already been manifested and deny it, to say it's not true. That's what, we're really into a new place. Don't ask the impossible of yourself. Don't ask yourself to look at evidence of something unwanted and pretend that it didn't happen. That's why beliefs are so powerful, because you vibrated that way. Law of attraction produced something that matched it. You observed it, and then off you go, off you go, off you go. There's a momentum in that too. So, what do? Well, you got to get out of the specifics. If you've been listening to us for a while, you've heard us say that the more you think about something, the more the momentum is about it. So, to slow the momentum, you've got to be more general in your thought. More general. The way you are more general, in fact, the most general way that anyone could be, is to focus upon it on an emotional basis rather than on a detailed basis of it. So here's a good, so now we're just going to ask you some questions. So tell us just a little bit, if you want to, about a belief that you have identified that keeps coming up, that you feel is hindering you.
I have a habitual sense of this paycheck's going to be the last one.
It's all right.
I lived, my life is very different now than it had been earlier
Yes.
in my life.
But that earlier life, thoughts that you kept thinking, experiences that you kept having, so it's created a belief system that goes like,
this is it, it's done. And I'm going to get...
I could get in trouble again. I could get back into that place. I like the way it is, but I'm guarded that it won't stay this way.
I'm having a hard time convincing myself that where I'm at now, which is absolutely a result of allowing it into my life and attracting it deliberately.
So you've got some beliefs that serve you and some that don't. We want to just talk for a moment about the ones that don't and show you what to do with them. So just speak a little bit more of that to us. I'm worried that it won't last. I'm worried that this is temporary. I'm worried that I might fall back into some of the same slump. I'm worried that I might lose my momentum. Those kinds of things. All right, so that's logical, isn't it? Now, in the...
And I'll say I recognize those as impediments and...
But what to do about them. So we'll show you. So in the thought, this money may not last. This may be the last money that comes. What's the emotion? What's the emotion that best describes how that thought causes you to feel?
Fear.
That's accurate. And it's good to acknowledge that. So now, let's never mind the conditions, because the conditions have momentum going. They are the byproduct of a lot of stuff that's going on. You've got this well-being trajectory, and you've got this hindering trajectory. So you've got this wobble, and these conditions are, there's enough momentum going that to talk about them is just going to cause confusion, usually, and more often than not, going to cause you to practice the vibration of what's causing the fear even more. You're just going to get more detailed about it, because that's what attention to something always does. So, but instead of doing that, let's take the fear, which is at the basis of the very general basis of this discussion, and we just want to ask you some easy to answer questions apart from those conditions. Just leave those aside for a little bit and focus upon the emotion of fear. Do you prefer the feeling of fear to the feeling of ease?
I far prefer the feeling of ease.
Ease. Do you prefer fear or fun?
Fun.
Do you prefer fear or interest?
I much prefer interest.
Do you prefer fear or clarity?
Clarity.
Do you prefer fear or love?
Love.
So now that was easy. So love and clarity and ease. Do you prefer frenzy or calm?
That is a more challenging question.
Do you prefer imbalance or balance?
Balance.
Do you prefer angst or ease?
Ease.
Do you prefer resistance or allowing? These are easy questions, we know. Almost so easy that it feels silly. But as he's answering these questions, he's focusing on who he really is. Do you prefer boredom or interest?
Interest.
Do you prefer sluggishness or vitality?
Vitality.
Do you prefer vitality or lethargy?
Vitality.
Do you prefer interest or boredom?
Interest.
Do you prefer happiness or sadness?
Happiness.
So when dollars are flowing, do they feel like bondage or freedom?
Freedom.
They feel like boredom or interest?
Interest.
Do they feel like lethargy or passion?
Passion.
So everything about everything that you want is already really in a core way active within you, and you just activated it so easily. In other words, there was just no contest whatsoever. It's so obvious where your natural vibration is. You just aligned with your absolute trajectory of who you are. In other words, just with that little exercise, there's no contradiction in your vibration right now. It was just clarity. You just lined up so easily with all of that. You found unconditional alignment just with a little bit of focus. You just came out of the details that are more challenging into something that is not challenging at all. These were really no-brainers. It was so easy for you to find that. And so now we would like you to tell us again about the prosperity state that you're living in.
It's awesome.
It
It's
is.
great.
It is awesome, isn't it? And
It
and
is.
it feels strong, it feels sure, it feels valid, it feels intense, it feels natural,
Yeah.
it feels ongoing, it feels in the right place. In other words, right now, you just practiced the vibration of alignment. You took a subject that life has caused you to put into a very powerful place because, as we said, and we weren't kidding you at all, there is enough prosperity, financial prosperity in your vortex to keep you busy for 20 or 30 or 40 lifetimes. There's a huge amount of it there. And you just lined right up with it because you, for a moment, got out of the conditions that were the challenge. You deactivated all of those conditions that have been keeping that belief in an active place. And if you can do that often enough, that belief that has been in an active place for a while will not stay in an active place because it didn't get big and therefore it's got a lot of momentum going and it's going to stay there. It's only a belief that keeps going because you keep adding attention to it. Did you hear that? Now, hear this. This is the best thing that you're ever going to hear and you've never heard it before. And you're ready to hear it now. Why do you think this trajectory of well-being never peters out? Because the source within you has undivided attention on that. And when you stop giving your nearly undivided attention on the wobble stuff, it will peter out, and this is who you'll be. All that you were born, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? All that you were born with and everything that you've added to it since, you see, that's a powerful trajectory that someone is tending to. And when you stop tending to the beliefs that don't serve you, they will become inactive in your experience. This is what's active in your experience. So what we just said to you is you added more momentum to these intentions that you've been holding for a long time just by not adding contradictory. Did you hear what we said? In other words, the cork floats. You don't have to hold it up there. What are you doing? I'm holding my vibration. I'm holding my vibration up there. You don't have to hold your vibration up there. Just don't pull it under the water with bogus, flawed premises. Ooh, that was so good. Yeah? Enough?